Welcome everyone to another episode of Control Alt Access. It's a video and audio podcast about video game accessibility. I'm one of your hosts, Laura. I go by Laura K. Buzz here on the internet. And I'm joined, as ever, by my lovely co-host, Arevya. Hi!
Hi, everyone! Quick disclaimer, we're recording this dirt late, and if you're wondering why I have marks on my forehead, it isn't that viewable, but I think maybe I have a blue mark on my forehead. It is okay. It's because I'm in the middle of a subathon, so I wore cosplay all day, and sadly the cosplay smells plastic, and plastic like pushing against your forehead will make a mark, so I'm okay.
Yeah. You've caught us on a day where we're both a little, like, this is not when we usually record. No. I'm at the tail end of, like, having just gotten back from GamesCom and then tried to write several thousand words about GamesCom things.
Yes.
So, we're here. This isn't going to be the usual structure of an episode. It's not going to be that far off of what a usual episode of Control Alt Access is like, but it's going to be a little wishy-washy because 15 minutes ago we decided we were recording today, so, welcome everyone.
Welcome.
Should we start with something that someone's played? Who do we want to start with on stuff we've played?
Yeah, I can start. I haven't played like that much. I'm at the moment, as I said in the subathon, we're playing Ocarina of Time. First time
this
ever.
This is your first time,
First time ever, and I love the game.
It's
now
so good.
Understand why people love it, because it's so easy to think old games, it's rose-tinted glasses from your childhood, and 100%, because I tried to dabble into this game in my teenage years, and I just played it for 10 minutes maybe, and I was just like, this is not for me. But this time, since I am streaming, I'm forced to actually read everything, and I am so impressed of the way this game like gives you a path. The way the game so suddenly, perfectly tells you where to go.
Like, without forcing you to go there. Like, you have other options of places you can go, but the game is like, look, here's a guiding hand as to where's probably sensible without, like, feeling like you were made to go there too much.
Yes, 100%. And it's just so well done. Well done.
It captures a very specific kind of, like, childlike sense of adventure that, like, a lot of video games that try to be, like, big open experiences, I think forget the magicalness of, it's a big open space and it should be exciting. I don't know what's around the corner. Ooh, where do we go?
Yeah, and I understand now why this is the favorite game of so many people, and okay, fine, I am convinced. Zelda has some good games, okay? I've been forced playing it for 5 days. I'm convinced. But other than that, I've been playing a new game that is coming out. So it's called Field of Mistria. It's a Stardew Valley game. Stardew Valley meets Polly Pocket, and it's so good. I can't say anything. Yeah, meets Polly Pocket meets Sailor Moon. If you love Stardew Valley, you will love this game. And the even better part is early access, and it has accessibility. It has accessibility.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. It has controller-like support. It has, you can remap whatever you play on. And you can, instead of like having, because typically when you play like Stardew Valley and you have to like cut down a tree, you need to like click the button 8 times before that tree fell. Here, you can have one button for clicking, one button for holding. And I love that. So there is some actions where you can just like hold down a button and that tree goes down. There is nothing else you need to do. And I actually tweeted them because I was playing, and I have really big problems with motion sickness in game. I was playing the game and the rain falls diagonal all the time when it's raining. That makes me really seasick. If it is a still image where I need to read and then rain or falling on the background, I feel like I am floating. Like my whole body feels like I'm floating.
Yes. I understand. Yeah.
Horrible. And that they had from early access, from the start, they had a possibility to just turn off all weather effects. But that didn't go into the cutscenes. So I tweeted them. I don't know if it was me, but I tweeted them. That tweet went far and wide, as it often do. And now, in the first patch note, they fixed it.
Yay!
So they are actually like a cozy farming Stardew Valley, Sailor Moon, Polly Pocket, 90s anime-styled cozy game that has accessibility. It can't be better than that. It can't be better than that.
Oh, that's adorable. I
Yes,
love that. That's great.
And that is what I've been lost in. That and RimWorld. But RimWorld is so inaccessible that it's not even... It's my I want to torture myself game in the evening. But that is for another day. Laura, what have you played this week?
Oh, I've played too many things. I'm gonna try and rattle through a bunch of them, but I'm gonna tell you a little bit about a lot of things I tried at Gamescom.
Oh, yes.
So, where do I start? I got to play some of Atomfall, which we've talked about before. That's the game from Rebellion, the Sniper Elite people. We've talked about the accessibility stuff that game was going to have in it upon release. Things like audio aim assist for having audio cues for when you're aiming at enemies with your gun. Things like that. Things like navigation assist tools, like being able to have an on-screen compass that leads you towards objectives. Really happy to report that the Gamescom demo, despite that game being months away from release still, had all of the accessibility features there, accessible in the demo.
Yes.
And that's really good.
That's really, really good.
So I was just very excited. I used a decent portion of my time just turning on settings and seeing what I could set, and that was very nice. There's a lot of settings for like reducing motion, your head bobbing around, your gun swaying around, etc., because it's a first-person game, to reduce motion sickness, alongside field of view tweaking. That all really helped. This is going to lead me onto a slight tangent. Gamescom is usually the worst for me getting motion sick with first-person games, because it's multiple days of me being very tired running around seeing a lot of video games, and like being very sleepy is one of the worst, in not very well ventilated rooms.
Yeah.
Not great for me getting motion sick.
No.
I didn't get particularly, I largely dodged motion sickness all of Gamescom.
Really?
And I think a big part of it, and this is something I was talking to my optician about a little while ago, is having gotten glasses.
Yes.
Because my eyes not being at different focal lengths to each other anymore, apparently that can be a big cause of motion sickness.
Yes.
And it seems to be really helping with motion sickness, so... hooray, hello, I might suffer with motion sickness a bit less now, and that's
really
exciting.
good. I have actually had more motion sickness lately, because I did a playtest for a game, and I got really, really motion sick playtesting that game, like extremely motion sick. I had to stop.
Yep.
And after that, I have struggled, like the slightest small thing. And I actually, I talked a bit with about motion sickness, or I saw Molly and Ian talking about this once, about if you get motion sick once, you will easier get motion sick the next time.
I've had these conversations with people before. I've had these conversations with Ian Hamilton. I've spoken to about this. I completely agree with this. I can name the game that made me for years have really bad motion sickness with games, and it was a VR game for the PlayStation VR called Golem, or Golem. It's the only game I've ever done a professional. I reviewed it for Polygon, and I had to email my editor and say I cannot finish this game. Me and my wife were in half-hour increments handing the headset off to each other to so the other one could have some rest while the other one kept playing it.
Yeah.
To try and get through it for review, and we just couldn't. And that game, I instantly felt something change, and I've had much worse motion sickness for years since because of that one game.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that at least one thing is helping mitigate it. So hooray, glasses are apparently good.
And also, if you have experience at the home, just taking breaks from game that will make you motion sick will then make you build up a tolerance again. So you just have to take a break from things that can make you motion sick if you've pushed it too far.
Yeah, know your limits and work within them as best you can.
Yeah.
Other things I played a very fun, silly little game called Date Anything. It is a dating sim set in a house where literally everything in the house is romanceable.
Didn't I send this to you? Oh no, I don't. I think I sent it to somebody else as well, because I saw the I saw the trailer. Oh my god, it's so fun. It looks so much fun.
I was aware of this game for a while, because my friend Steph has done some writing for this game, which is why I was aware it existed. But I had a little bit of time playing this game in a demo, and I will tell you the 3 dates I went on in quick succession. I went to the bathroom and tried to date the toilet because I was curious.
Of course.
And the toilet was a shitty SoundCloud rapper. He's a real asshole kind of bro. Insistent that you support his rap career. He has a gold-plated toilet around his neck on a chain, and he won't date you until you learn how to do rhymes better.
Oh, wow.
I then accidentally started dating the game's UI, like the text box, and I met a character called UI-chan, who very much implied that anytime I'm dating any of the other characters where I have to click on text boxes, she finds that sexy. So during the rest of the demo, anytime I was clicking on text boxes, I was like, look, doesn't matter who I'm dating, apparently I'm turning on UI-chan now. And then maybe my favorite one was I tried dating a door, and the human form of the door was like a bouncer, like a security guard for a venue.
Genius.
Which makes such perfect sense because he's big and square, and he decides whether you enter or exit places. The writing was really charming, and like there was a real sense of any time you clicked on an object, like the person that appeared was like, oh yeah, no, of course that's what that object is emotionally. Like, someone clearly put a lot of thought and care into a very silly idea, and I respect the hell out of it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
What else did I play? I played a really interesting demo for a game called All Will Rise. It is written by Meg Giant, who did the writing for 80 Days, Boyfriend Dungeon, Thirsty Suitors that came out not that long ago. Has written... I know they're writing for being, like, very left-wing, very queer, very femme writing. I'm like, okay, I'm already excited. It is a deck-building Ace Attorney-style courtroom game about... it's set in India, and you're playing as this group of political activists who have managed to, in court, establish personhood for this river in India. Basically meaning that if anyone were to, like, damage, pollute, destroy this river, it would be akin to damaging a person in terms of legal consequences.
Yes.
And this group of activists did not expect to be able to pull this off and has suddenly gone, okay, this is a big deal, how do we capitalize on this? And very quickly their legal precedent is put to the test because they wake up one morning and the river is full of toxic chemicals and has been set on fire, presumably by someone protesting this legal precedent.
Yes.
So you're doing, like, deck building to build up your, like, deck of arguments that you're then using in, like, an Ace Attorney court system.
Oh, that's cool.
To try and, like, do arguments with people to get information out of them.
Yeah.
Maybe the most interesting part about it is the writing does a really good job of capturing the difficulties of left-wing political organizing. In that you can send, like, members of your group off to go do certain tasks, but it's like, how close are they to burnout? Like, how much, like, energy do they still have for the fight that we're doing? Do they disagree about, like, what kind of means are acceptable to reach the end goal we're aiming for? Like, some of them might be like, oh, I'm okay with political violence if it gets us where we need to get to. Some might be more, no, we have to do this, like, properly and by the books, and we can't do anything that's even slightly not the correct way to go about things.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a really interesting look at the difficulties of, like, people who've come together because they want the same thing but don't necessarily agree on how to get there, wrapped up in deck building and shouting objection at each other.
How fun.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, the most unique thing I saw out of Gamescom. My little connection to it is years ago I was a judge for a game jam in the Netherlands that a university was running.
Cool.
That was to do with environmentalism and sustainability. And this game has come out of that game jam like 5 years ago. And I'm like, oh, that's a really cool thing.
I'm really cool.
I'm glad that they're still making cool games about environmentalism.
And, like, that's cool though, because I have a soft spot for game jams. I think they bring out so many good things and exceptionally creative things because people need to think new ways. So that's really cool.
A couple of other quick ones. I'm gonna, like, skim through some of these. I played a demo for a game on Switch called Project Timi, Sasha's Curse. And the best way I can describe this is, did you ever play Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker?
Yes.
Yeah, the sort of, like, top down. It's sort of like a little toy box where you're like going around your little grid-based little diorama environment, trying to find all the little collectibles that are hidden and rotate the world to see where the things are hidden, and you can't jump. This is that.
Oh.
They've made another one of those without the Captain Toad branding.
That's cool. That I'm looking forward to.
It's got one mechanic of its own that I think is really interesting, which is sometimes there will be enemies in levels, and the way that you deal with them is that you put a trap down on a certain space on the map, and the enemies will like walk back and forth in predictable patterns. And when they're standing on the square where you put the trap, there's sort of the soundtrack is giving you a timing, and you press a button on the beat when they're on that space, and it'll defeat the enemy. And it's like a little, not too stressful timing minigame, because it's like, if you fail the timing, just wait until they next come back to that space and press the button again.
Yeah.
So it's fairly low pressure, but it's one additional mechanic placed onto a gameplay genre I already enjoyed.
Yes.
Like, I will happily take off-brand, you made some more Captain Toad.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Captain Toad.
I really enjoyed that one. Yeah. I could spend hours on Captain Toad just like puzzling around. It was so cute.
Yeah, they've captured the feel of Captain Toad very well. It's enjoyable for all the reasons I liked that game. A couple of others. Let's have a look. I played a bit of Monster Hunter Wilds, the new Monster Hunter. It very much plays like existing Monster Hunters.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to be hugely surprised to hear new Monster Hunter plays like old Monster Hunter, but they added like one new thing to it. And I'm okay with that. I like my Monster Hunters. I'm okay if it's Monster Hunter plus one thing.
That is what people expect. That is what people want. That is what they give people.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And the thing that they've added with this one is when you're attacking your big sort of dinosaur monsters, you'll sometimes see little red marks appear on them that are now like, oh, if you can deliberately attack that area over and over, it'll sort of burst and do a big burst of damage. And you can sort of hold down L2 to go into first person and aim at that spot.
Oh, that's cool.
You're doing your attacks at a particular part of the body to try and, like, get a bonus for hitting the same place lots of times. I was like, yeah, that's a neat thing to add that doesn't fundamentally change the experience. Sure, I'll probably enjoy more Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
I played other stuff, but I think we could probably leave it there on stuff I've played, because we've got controllers to talk about.
We have controllers to talk about. Do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, so I've got the Proteus controller.
Yay!
We've talked about this one before. This is the controller made of a bunch of cubes that you went and saw, what, a couple of months ago now, I guess it would have been?
Yes.
Yeah, so for anyone who is jumping in on this episode, the Proteus controller is a modular controller made up of a bunch of little cubes. You can connect them together in whatever orientation you want. All of the buttons and analog sticks and things like that can be placed on any side of any of the cubes. And then it connects to PC or Xbox via a little wireless dongle.
Yeah.
And I have been fidgeting around with this thing for about 5 days because I was at Gamescom and I saw a thing where I was going to their booth just because I wanted to go check it out and to come back with some first impressions, and they were like, we've got some of our dev kits here. If anyone would like to buy a dev kit, we have some dev kits. And I was like, I would like to go home with a Proteus controller today. The dev kit has a couple of little fiddly things with it that I will say, like, it's a little bit of a shame that there was not a bit more transparency about some of the things that are a bit fiddly about the dev kit. I'm not going to hold them against the controller as a whole. I'm going to try and talk about this mostly from the experience of the things about this that will be accurate when retail units happen to get to people. It feels really premium.
Yes.
I'm surprised at how, like, high quality it feels.
Yes.
Which it needs to. At $300 for one of these, it needs to feel
It needs to feel high tech
and well made. Yeah, and it does.
It does.
Like all of the connections, like the fact that when you put your, I don't know, one of your little circular modules into it, it snaps really satisfyingly in with a magnet guiding it into place, and you just do a little turn and now it's rock solid in there. It all connects together really well. I'm really impressed at the fact that it doesn't need me to go into software.
Yes.
Like, I can just plug the cube together and the cube knows how it is set up.
Yep.
And that it just sort of works. One of the things I really appreciate about this is, you know how with the PlayStation Access controller, if you want to, like, change the keycaps on it,
yep,
you have to be careful not to accidentally press the button while you're putting the new keycap on.
Yeah.
Because it still registers the input while you're swapping things around.
Yeah, and you need to go in and change it, which is so boring.
I really like with this that if you connect or disconnect any part of it while, like, it's connected to the Xbox and you're playing, it'll start flashing rainbow colors for a few seconds and just be like, hey, you're changing things on this. We won't register any inputs for a second. And then when you've stopped connecting or disconnecting things for a few seconds, the lights will go solid colors again. And it's like, yeah, you done?
Yep.
You can keep playing. I like that you don't, like, have to turn it off to do that. You can do it while you're playing. It works out all the changes that were made without you having to worry about accidentally pressing buttons while you're changing things.
Yeah, I remember one of the things I've been thinking from, like, now it is months since I last touched it, but I did a review of it, and, like, it feels like it's made from gamers. And both the makers of this are gamers themselves. One of them are disabled, and, like, you can absolutely feel that in this. This is made by gamers for gamers, and it feels like that.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get my hands on it again.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of setups with this that I've been really enjoying. It can't yet do the thing that I had hoped I would be able to do with it, and I think this is worth talking about because it will be possible, and I don't know how much my bugging them at Gamescom had to do with this, but I suspect a little bit. So I was the first person to buy one of these at Gamescom, and I did come back the next day going, I have a question about this, about whether something works, because my dream for a while with both Xbox and PlayStation has been to be able to play with my controls, with my hands apart from each other while playing. And the Proteus does ship with 2 of the power cubes that are the bit that both powers it and also transmits to the console. So I was like, cool, does that mean I can have each half of it be separate and connect, basically use co-pilot mode to make them one controller?
Can you make like joysticks with it? That is just what we want.
And the answer is no, kind of. It ships with 1 dongle, and the dongle will only connect to 1 power cube at a time. But I explained to them my desire to be able, I was like, can I buy a second dongle? And they were like, maybe at some point in the future, we've thought about that as a possibility. And then by the time I got home from Gamescom, they were like, yeah, we have up for pre-order the ability to pre-order additional dongles.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I feel like a few people at Gamescom must have that was about it.
That was also a big grief in my review of it. That was that what I want for it to do is to split it, and I can't. And the fact that they have, like, I think every review I've seen says the same. It's like the 2 things that is negative is the price, and it is the ability to like split it. And I just quickly want to note, people, that this is a form of the new Xbox system. I don't know if everybody have seen it, but like Xbox have also started like approving third-party controller, because a lot of people commented on, why is it so expensive if it's Xbox? Xbox is a billion industry. It shouldn't be this expensive. This is not made by Xbox. It's approved by Xbox for using on an Xbox. So like when you get it, it's ready to go on the Xbox. This is not made by Xbox. This is made by BioWare, BioWave, I mean, and BioWare, BioWave, there we go. Ooh, way too late in the evening.
That's all good.
And yes, they are approved by Xbox, but that doesn't say anything then other than getting a sticker and allowed to have the Xbox logo on it. So that is why it is expensive. If that is a good enough reason for people, that's another discussion. But it's just really important, because the biggest anger a lot of people have about it is that, oh, but it's Xbox. It's not.
It's one of those things where the price being what it is going to make people critical of the little things, and I think that's fair to be critical.
That's fair. Oh, 100%.
I think when you are paying this much of a premium,
you should get a premium.
Need to be premium experience. Yes. And I think, like, being honest, I think this is one of the reasons, without going into the specifics of the bugs with the dev kits, I think that's part of why I was kind of a bit miffed that they weren't transparent about what bugs there were with the development kits before selling a development kit for the full retail price.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's
if you're going to sell something...
Weird.
Yeah, if you're going to sell something at, like, a premium price, you need to recognize that, like, problems are going to feel more critical having spent that.
Yeah.
Particularly when you compare this to the price of, like, you know, the Xbox Adaptive Controller, the 4 Reflex, the Access Controller.
$300 is enough to get a Switch, so, like...
It is.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, while I am understanding of the, like, this is a smaller company and a more bespoke thing... The place where I felt a bit weird about the price is those additional dongles are being sold for, I believe, $30 each.
Yeah.
And basically a USB Bluetooth device costing $30 feels more expensive than that probably is costing to produce. And, like, that's one where I look at the price and go, I do wonder how high the markup on that is. And that feels a little, but...
Fair enough.
The fact is, it will be able to do the thing that I want it to be able to do, and I'm excited about that being a possibility.
And I cannot wait to get my hands on it and, like, test it, because with that high price, I want it to last, and it needs to last, and I need to play it to the ground, and it needs to last. And if something that everything also, there is always a chance of something going wrong, and with us using things like this so much. I am also, how are they going to deal with customer service? Because if it's so expensive, then you also need premium help if something goes bad.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so I've got a lengthy video about my first few days with this going up on Friday this week, and this is the big reason why I didn't call it a review, is I'm like, I need longer term with this, because I need to know, how is it going to hold up to extended use? How is it going to hold up to extended disassembly, reassembly? I've got a lot of questions about it, but, like, putting all the cynicism aside for a second, I can have a controller where instead of being the bumpers and triggers being at the top, they're at the back.
Yep.
And I hadn't realized how much more comfortable I would find that for my, like, kind of awkward grip on a controller than it is. And the thing about this controller that keeps getting me is I'll make a little change and go, oh, that's so much better. I didn't realize a controller could be like this. And for me, those little changes have been things like moving the triggers and bumpers, having a 45-degree bend so that like I've got a shorter angle between the analog sticks and the buttons. It's really nice, and as soon as I can have this into split halves, once that second adapter shows up, this is going to be my default controller for Xbox for certain. Even before that, like right now, I'm like, it's going to be hard to go back to using a regular Xbox controller after this. I can't deny that it feels special.
Yeah, it just is really good. It is the reason my YouTube video about it up. You can see me start trying it, because I did not realize how much pain my body was in, and then Evelyn changed something on it for me, and then my pain just went away. And that, sort of, it was like a chaotic, it just stopped. Everything just stopped for a second. And it felt like floaty, and I started crying because I couldn't deal with it. And so, this is going to be really cool. I can't wait to see how it holds up against time. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm feeling very positive about it, even if I have a lot of complicated thoughts about who it is for and who I would recommend it to. Yes. But, do you want to tell us about your controller that you have in your home and that I've tried but didn't get to take home?
Yes, I think this is I'm a bit in a weird place here, because I don't know if anybody else in the world right now has this in their home. Like maybe 4 other people.
There's a couple of people in a trailer who might have it in their home, but there's not many.
No. So cannot of course talk about everything. That is just how it is. But I was supposed to join, or supposed to help with something that fell through, but because of that I needed to get familiar with this, that that I'm holding up now is the Xbox Adaptive Joystick. It's a newest accessibility tool from Xbox. This is official Xbox. This is actually Xbox.
Yeah.
And when they, so here I hold it up. If you're listening to this, this is a handheld white joystick with a joystick on top that is black, 2 triggers on the backside, and 4 buttons on the front. And it can be have connection, or like you can hold it like this, or you can connect it with actual like cables. Yeah. It's so lightweight, and I sent a mail last week on GamesCom when Xbox and I was just like, am I out of my NDA? And I got a yes, and then I posted about it and it said boom, and I was just like, what is happening? And I'm still even though I have it black on white and I'm allowed to talk about this, I am still a bit like, how much can I say?
I can side story. I have one situation that was kind of like this I had once, which was I went to a preview event for the co-op mode for Vampire Survivors.
Yeah.
And someone from the PR team took me over to a random computer and went, this is Vampire Survivors Director's Cut. It has a bunch of content in it that no one else has seen. Anyway, off you go, leave. And I had to try and tell people, I was like, I have permission. They told me I had permission to talk about it. And people were like, oh, why are you leaking this? Why are you leaking their big surprise? I'm like, no, they told me I could. Yes. I know no one else saw it, but they told me I could.
Yeah.
It's weird when no one else is able to talk about a thing, but you're allowed to talk about it.
and like, I'm still a bit scared that Xbox is going to raid my house or something and go like, how dare you? How dare you? How did you get it?
Someone told you it was okay. It's not your problem now.
Yeah. So, but I haven't actually tested it that much. I think because I have been traveling a lot, I've been a lot stressed, and also I have actually, truth be told, a bit afraid of testing it also, because I was afraid like if I plug it in, what will happen? So there is actually a lot of uncertainty, and also that they program for it. So when you do use Xbox accessibility tools, you have on your PC, which is where I play mostly, you have something called Xbox app or Xbox accessory app, which is where you can reconfigure things. You cannot do that with this right now because that software is just not out yet. This controller is not set to be released before early 2025 is what we have officially known. So that it just makes it hard for me to actually use it that much. I have tried it a bit. The weirdest thing, which is because you tried it on GamesCom and you liked it, I find this really weird. And that is the fact that you have the Joy-Con up and then you need to move your thumb down for buttons.
Yeah, the buttons are below the analog stick.
Yes.
And I didn't have a problem with that layout, but I can see how it could be a problem.
Yeah, and if anybody, like, if you watched the video, I'm going to explain. But as you can see, I have actually quite long fingers. So if I use it now and then I take down, I don't know if you can see, but my thumb is in a really, really weird space. I also think I have a bit longer hands than what normally is. And so I'm struggling a bit with this because I feel I need to move so much that then I'm a bit like, okay, but then the problem is still there. I move my thumb too much. So even just showing you guys, I'm already feeling it inside my thumb because I hyperflex it and like it's not good for me. But, and this is a really, really big but, and I cannot lie. Normally when I play with my feet. So I have the Xbox adaptive controller on the floor. Laura can most likely post a picture so you guys can see. And I push buttons. What I'm missing in that setup is, the only thing I'm missing is that I'm still using a regular controller is the joysticks and the triggers. Because that I don't want to have on my feet. So then this would be perfect. So this in itself, how it is right now, I don't know. If it were just to use this, I wouldn't use it. But with the setup I have, as an addition to your already accessibility things, this is cool.
Yeah, so I had a little bit of a play around with this at Gamescom, and my first way I would describe this, if you're not watching the video version, is Nintendo Wii nunchucks, but with 4 extra buttons.
Yes.
Like, that's the vibe.
Yeah.
And, like, Here's the thing. I think my opinion on this controller is really colored by the fact that I'm talking about this the same week that I have a Proteus controller in my house. Because, like, what I really want out of Xbox or PlayStation is just the ability to play with my hands separated from each other at, like, different positions. And both this and the Proteus controller are very different approaches to that. Proteus is wireless, but very expensive, but better customizable for how you lay those buttons out when you're doing that, versus and needing an additional adapter that's not in the box, versus this that will be like more affordable. I believe these are about £30 each, which is like considerably more price manageable than the Proteus controller. But they're wired, which means that if you don't have an Xbox adaptive controller, you're either going to have USB cables across your living room, or you need an Xbox adaptive controller or something to plug the cables into instead. It's definitely pros and cons, but I am very excited we're in a world where by the end of this year, start of next year, there's going to be 2 different options on Xbox for playing with my hands separated from each other. And even if, you know, after long-term use, one of them works out to be better than the other, I'm so excited that there's 2 different options for having my hands apart from each other while playing Xbox that are mere months away from being options for me.
And I think this is important to, like, just say, is the fact that and you sort of touched on it a bit earlier. You said, like, I don't necessarily see who I want to recommend this for. You said that in the sentence earlier. And I think that is a bit important, because that, when we are talking, me and Laura, I'm just talking to me and you, that's better to say. Me and you, we have a lot of similar problems. So, and that also is a bit of a problem, because then we don't see the big scope always. And I think this is important with this as well, because I think it's about damn time, just to quote yet another thing, that we get choices. We need things. We need different things. And that is why I'm glad for this. No matter if it will... I kind of was, because I got sent one. And I feel I'm a bit like, to use it right now, because if I'm going to use it right now, I'm still need to have a secondary controller, because I cannot use it anyway, because, like, there is just one joystick, so I need a secondary controller. So when I can get a second of these and I can do a split setup, I think I might open my eyes a lot more for this. And I also cannot wait to see if there is other ways. The only thing I think it's a bit bad right now is that you can't lay it flat. It sadly has rounded edges, so you can't lay it flat. There is some small things I'm a bit like, why did you do that? But again, it needs more testing. I am going to make a YouTube about this. We'll post it. But since this isn't coming out before the end or the start of next year, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to test this to bits and rumbles and just try and see if I can. I'm going to try it a bit on stream. I'm going to try it a bit and see what I can do until it's actually released, to see how does it actually hold up. Because when we talked about the Proteus controller, that is 10 times, or allegedly, I don't know what is price of this one, allegedly 10 times more expensive.
Yeah.
What about this then? Like, how what can we expect from this? And I'm excited. I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy here. I'm really excited. I'm just a bit disappointed of the, like, not disappointed, I'm just a bit curious about the design now, and I need time to figure out how am I going to match my disability with this. But I have already seen people who seem to be enjoying this is people that already only have one arm to work with, or people who play with their mouth and chin. They seem to, like, it seems to fit really well into that. So maybe that is why it has a rounded back edge. I'm just looking forward to see this being given to people.
Yeah, that's the, you touched on something there that I think is really important, which is I'm always excited when we have multiple accessibility tools in this industry, aiming to fill the same niche but in different approaches, because it means that if there are a bunch of people with different disabilities out there who are all going, yes, I would like a one-handed controller joystick configuration, but what that means to them and why they need it and what it needs to be to work for them is different. I'm glad we have multiple options popping up.
Yeah.
As we said, I feel a bit more positive about the button layout. I don't know what it is about my hands. It's just the buttons felt not inconvenient to reach for me. For me, if I didn't already have the Proteus here and know that there was another dongle coming, I would be like, cool, this is a cheap thing that does what I want to be able to play with split hands. I already own an Xbox adaptive controller. It's not an issue to have that on my lap and plug these into that. It would do the job pretty cheaply for what I'm trying to do. I think the reasons I'm less excited about it are mainly because I have the Proteus and it's a more customizable version that I've already done the expensive bit of.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's wireless, and I can do that little bit of extra tweaking and not have to be tethered and do the cognitive bit of having wires connected.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that both of these exist. I'm glad that the only option for split-handed controls on Xbox isn't the £300+ controller.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I saw somebody who asked me, because I posted out online, ask me any questions you have. I will try and answer as much as I can until it's released. They said, can we plug it in to the PlayStation and the Nintendo? And that I am actually really see if I can plug this into the HoriFlex. Because then the HoriFlex all of a sudden gets accessible, because that right now is non-accessible for me. So I'm looking forward to like dig myself deep down into this room and go like goblin mode and just try. But
I mean, I understand that. I am currently trying out different adapters to see if I can trick any of the other consoles into working with the Proteus. You know, it's that stage of like, I want to fiddle around with the tech and see what I can make it work with.
Let's hope we're not make anything go boom.
It'll be fine. And we've got one other controller to talk about this week, because we've got a little controller corner. I got to play around a little bit with the 8BitDo Lite SE for Xbox, which, here's the main thing I'm going to talk about with this one. I own an 8BitDo Lite SE for Nintendo Switch. The 8BitDo Lite SE for Xbox is a fundamentally different controller despite having the same name. So, I'll tell you what they both have in common first. Both of them are a flat controller where all of the buttons that would be on a controller are on the top face. So it's like a flat rectangle. You've got your analog sticks, but your A, B, X, Y, all of that is on the top of the controller. But so are things like your L1 and L2. Your clicking in the left or right stick is just a button that's on the top of it. They're all very low resistance buttons. It's just a flat thing with rubber on the bottom so it doesn't slip, that has all the buttons from your controller just on one flat surface. That is where the similarities between these end. So, I would say that the one for Switch is maybe it's a bit bigger than like a bank card, but like maybe twice the size of a bank card. It's quite small, the one for Switch. The Xbox One is, I would say, like double the size. It's a considerably larger version of the same kind of device. But the other big difference is that it has two 3.5mm input ports on it. It ships with two large buttons, two large button inputs. They're sort of large, round, circular buttons that are just like a simple depress to activate. That can be plugged into the 3.5mm ports, or you could just plug other 3.5mm input devices into them instead. But yeah, it is a much larger controller with additional input ports, and it ships with some buttons, none of which is true for the Switch one.
Okay. First and foremost, this is why you need to do marketing properly, because I saw that this was everywhere, and I was just like, well, I know everything about it. I didn't read any of it. I didn't see the live stream, nothing.
I did the same thing. I saw the name and went, oh, I've used this for Switch. I know what this is. And I didn't look further. It wasn't until I was at Xbox's booth and saw one and saw it had buttons plugged into it and was big. And I was like, sorry, what? And I'll say this. I've had conversations with Xbox's accessibility team. making them aware of this fact.
Yeah.
They are aware of it.
Okay, good.
So we'll see if anything comes of it, but they are at least aware. Hey, do you know this has an identical name to a controller that has different functionality?
But are they the same? Like, are
the name is the same.
But
the name is the 8-bit do Lite SE.
Yeah, but
just for Xbox or Switch.
But is it the same? Is it sort of like, is it made by the same people?
It's made by the same company.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
8-bit do.
Yeah.
Made it.
Yeah.
They just made 2 controllers in 2 different sizes with 2 different functionalities and didn't give them a different name.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's If we have fallen into that, and this is our job, people. This is literally our job. And if we have looked over it, oh no.
Yeah, I saw a picture of it at a glance and didn't realize it was a different size because there was nothing for scale.
Yeah.
Why would I think to assume it was like twice the size?
Oh, that's
so yeah. I wish I had more.
They actually said this. Now I need to go and read up on it.
Right. I wish I had more thoughts on it, but my thoughts were taken away with. Wait, you did call this the same thing, right? Huh. So yeah, it's fundamentally the same idea, just bigger and with 3.5mm ports. It's an upgrade, comparatively. I don't know how the price compares. I haven't had a chance to look at the price for the Xbox One, but
yeah, because
it's interesting.
It could be called like 8-bit Lite SA or whatever. Like it could be called just like the same thing with like Xbox do with Xbox X and Xbox S. Like you can do these small changes, and at least then. But I presume the difference would technically is between in the Xbox and Switch name. But the problem is that for me, that just sounds like it's either for the Xbox or it's for the Switch. It doesn't. Yeah, exactly. For me, I thought that meant it was the complete same. Yeah. Just now it is on Xbox as well.
I've had a quick look. The one for Switch is $25 in the US. The one for Xbox is $60, so it's almost twice the price.
Oy.
It has. It is considerably larger, and yes, it ships with 2 black and white 3.5mm button peripherals.
I'm glad really glad you said this. If we have done this mistake, as I've always said, if one person have a question, 1,000 also have the same question. That means that some of our listener has not known this as well.
So yeah, that's all I wanted to bring up on that one. Is if you're someone who knows accessibility tech enough to have heard of that name, yeah, the new one's it's different.
Then I need to get on. I need to order so many things. I need to sell a kidney or 2 or 5 at this point for all the things I want. But okay.
Next up, we've got a little mini segment of just accessibility things that happened out of Gamescom that aren't controller specific.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk a little bit about the World of Warcraft thing at the Xbox booth. So at Xbox's booth this year at Gamescom, they had a bunch of queue up to play game demos and stuff, but they also had a thing that was just. Wear a VR headset and sit on a fake horse and then go on a motion ride where wind is blowing at you and you're leaning left and right while you ride on the back of a magical flying horse in VR.
That's cool, but my motion sickness went, whoa.
Yeah, I had some interesting conversations with Xbox about motion sickness mitigation attempts with that. I didn't find it too bad, and I don't know how much of that is my body was moving with the in-world sensation,
that helps a lot.
Which definitely helped a bit. But the interesting bit about it is, they had a bunch of these motion simulator demo booths set up, but they also had one that was set up for wheelchair users.
That's so cool.
That instead of sitting on this fake horse, it was there was a mechanical ramp to bring the wheelchair up to a certain height, and then there was things in place to lock the chair, the wheels of the chair in position so that it was safely secured in place, so that you could then, in the chair you were regularly using, do the VR motion simulator and have all of the same stuff going on just with your wheelchair. And I did get to hear a little bit about how this came to pass. The person who was responsible for programming and creating this setup has a child who uses a wheelchair, and he's just really passionate about if I'm creating a technical thing for work that the general public is going to have fun with, I need to make sure that my kid could have fun with it too.
Good.
Like, I wouldn't want to create a thing that my kid would have to miss out on. And as a result, yeah, there was just a wheelchair accessible motion simulator demo station, which I thought was really cool. I was really happy to see that there.
Xbox just keeps impressing, but they have done something really smart here though, because I try to always tell people there are two reasons for why you know something: either because you're familiar with it, or because you have learned about it. And that is almost always the only reasons why you know about something. Yeah. So when you then hire people that has knowledge about accessibility, you will get people that fixes things like this, because they then understand it. So it's so important. Like Xbox are so good at like keeping their value of what they want it to in their whole core of their whole company, or at least what we see facing outwards so far. And it's really, really cool. Every time I hear about them, I'm just crying on the inside. Why wasn't I on Gamescom this year?
We'll get you there. It'll happen.
One day. Just sell maybe 10 kidneys and then we'll get there.
Do you want to talk about the ASL for Gamescom?
Yes. So if you were, as me, at home and watching the opening night, you would see that they even said it. This is something I think is really, really cool, because it's one thing, and we have seen a lot of them do it, that when they do the YouTube, I don't know if they normally do it on Twitch, because that can be a bit more tricky because you need 2 channels. But on YouTube, you can go live with 2 direct things at the same time. So what they then do is that they have one for English, and then they had one for ASL, American Sign Language. So that you got the same picture, but on the side there was somebody who signed. Amazing. But the even better thing was that in the start of Gamescom, the presenter said, just so you know, there is also an American Sign Language and you can follow it over there. That is everything. Everything. Yes.
Making sure people know about it and not being secretive and being like proud up front. We have ASL. You can go watch it with ASL if that would help. And I'm like, oh, yes.
This might be the boldest thing I've ever seen, but the biggest problem we face with accessibility is the lack of information. I think that is one of the biggest, because if you have the information, 9 out of 10 times you can find it yourself. You can fix it yourself a lot of times if you have the information. But without it, you're just like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know this is a possibility. And I bet you there were people watching this going like, what? Is this a possibility? And kudos. Continue doing this. Just information. They was less than 4 seconds. He said something.
So easy. It's so easy to just mention something. And...
It's so easy.
Yeah.
I was so happy. And kudos to Gamescom on like going in this year saying, we're going to do these and these accessibilities. Is it perfect? No, it will never be. Nothing is 100% perfect. Nothing is 0% perfect or accessible. But they have done something. And kudos.
Indeed. Yeah. And the last one I want to talk about out of Gamescom is so last week, maybe the week before, I posted a video on YouTube talking about virtual queuing systems like those seen at many theme parks. There's an accessibility accommodation so that disabled people can queue somewhere other than in the physical queue if that is more accessible for them, and how that could be applied to things like gaming conventions like Gamescom. And having been at Gamescom, they kind of almost had a virtual queuing system, kind of, this year. A little bit, sort of. So, what they had was a system, I believe it's called Fast Lane tickets, this year. And it existed for, like, a very small handful of games. I think it was, like, maybe 6 or 7 games total from across all of Gamescom that had this system. And the way that it worked, it's not a specific system for disabled guests, it is just any of the 300,000+ people that are attending can use it, and you can go on their website. And basically there are all these time slots, and 3 hours before a time slot opens up, like exactly to the second 3 hours before that, you can refresh a web page and try and be the fastest person to click a few buttons to like click on the game, click on the time slot, say yes I accept, yes confirm. And if you're one of like 2 or 3 people that like did it fast enough and had enough internet connection to do it fast enough, you can get a virtual queuing slot for that game and come back 3 hours later without having queued and just go straight into the demo. Now, there are problems with this, as you can maybe imagine. It very much rewards fastest finger first, whoever is most quick and accurate and dexterous at doing the inputs, which means that disabled people who perhaps most need it are probably not the people who are going to successfully get those slots. I also saw word of people who there was no limit to how many of these you could have available to you at a time, and you could just have them as a screenshotable QR code. So I saw people online talking about, like, oh, I managed to book up a bunch of the fast lanes for X game today.
Yeah.
I'll sell them to you if you PayPal me X amount of money. Like, I will sell you a fast pass that was meant to be free for X amount because I got it because I'm fast at typing. And it's a shame, because what it did tell me is the infrastructure does exist.
Yeah.
And that at least some of the bigger developers, like Xbox in particular, could offer this as an accessibility accommodation. They have the technical setup. They would just need to have a certain number of slots on a separate page that if you, like, contact Xbox in advance and say, hey, I'm disabled, can I have access to a virtual queuing system, that you could access a page that is less busy, where you can book some time slots that you're only competing with other disabled people. It's not nearly such a frantic rush, and maybe you can only do each demo once so that everyone can get a chance to book, you know, slots for the demo. Like, there are ways you could take what's there and tweak it and have a really good accessibility accommodation.
And it could also,
out of what they did.
And it could also have been something like with TwitchCon, where you got like an actual separate badge that was like, this is an accessible badge. That could also be something like, if you have this code, you can write this code in, and then you get some of these other slots. Like, there are ways we can do this.
There's ways you can do it, but like, for all the problems I have with it, it means that they have the infrastructure.
Yeah.
And to me that says, great, I will ask them much more firmly over the next year to do it next year at Gamescom, because they technically can do it. So now I've just got to needle them on the, it would be a morally good thing to do for disabled people angle.
Yes. It's nice though. It's nice to hear that. Yeah. And like, I'm just looking forward to next year to see if all of this positivity, if they will bring it forward. What will they do next year? Will they just continue with this, or will they step up the game? So yeah,
indeed. And now we've got one thing left to talk about this week, and this is not a fun story, but it's a story we've kind of got to talk about, because it's significant to discussions of accessibility in games. The short version is that Grant Stoner wrote a very well-researched, very lengthy article on IGN. The article is called "A Prominent Accessibility Advocate Worked with Studios and Inspired Change, but She Never Actually Existed."
Yes.
And I would suggest reading the full thing, but I think the best way we can summarize it is that Coty Craven, who helped to found Can I Play That, a resource that we have cited many times here on this show, over the course of many years, created many fictional identities, who were usually women of color with other marginalized identities that Coty did not personally have.
Yep.
And used those identities for a number of purposes, including speaking over non-white disabled accessibility advocates by pretending to be a voice for those communities while not being so.
Yep.
Faking the death of some of those identities in order to do things like seemingly crowdfund for the creation of Can I Play That off of the back of the death of a person who never existed.
Yep.
There was a prominent accessibility journalism award that for several years was named after one of these identities who never existed. And from all accounts, this has been like a many years process of creating identities to write personal perspective pieces about an identity that was not theirs to tell those stories of.
Yep.
and it's been pretty shocking to the gaming accessibility community, in as much as many of us have worked with, spoken with, at the very least been aware of these people who never were, and that is a thing to process.
Yep.
Yeah. It is a lot.
Yeah, I have 3 things to say about this. First and foremost, I think it's really important to say thank you to Grant for giving us this. He has also on Twitter, if you're not on Twitter, he have asked people to stop asking him questions. This has devoured him for months on end. It's been taking a toll on him and his relationships around him, because it was such a hard piece to make journalism about. So
it's not easy to investigate someone who you and everyone you're friends with has believed for years, and to have to go, maybe they've been lying to all of us, and that has to be your life for a few months.
And you have to ask the hard questions. You have to ask hard questions to organizations that we all love, like Can I Play That, like Able Gamers. So first and foremost, I just want to say thank you for bringing this to us. And if anybody here hears about it, please go and read the article to get proper knowledge about this. Also, please do not ask questions to you. We can talk each other, like we can talk to each other and speculate and stuff like that. And I say to people, ask away, but let Grant now be able to have a bit of peace. Second thing I want to say about this is that this person has not been involved with sites like Can I Play That for years, and Able Gamers and stuff like that for years. The reason why I think it's important to say that is that also the game trigger database, I think it is called. Yes. The reason why I think it's really important for us to say this is that don't go and give hate to these sites. These sites today is run by honest people doing honest work. And for at least for the game trigger database, that one got shut down, and it's months, if not up to a year, of volunteer work that got ripped off the line overnight, and it's horrible.
I've seen people who, after reading this story, that were like, posting, oh, where should I be going for accessibility information other than Can I Play That now, and have had to be like, I don't think that is the right move. The people who are at Can I Play That right now are doing fantastic work.
They are
not culpable for these events that went down.
And please know that this person have been frauded legit big organizations by a lot of times saying that the person they made up is deaf. That's why I can't be on a Zoom call and everything has to be written. So please know that if one person has been fooled by this, that is understandable, because this horrible person has fooled the whole industry. And I'm not just talking about the game accessibility industry. I'm talking game industry. I talk that they have been able to playtest and be consultant for actual big games. Again, go and read the article. So if you listen to this and you have sadly fallen for this, as many of us have, please don't blame yourself, because that is please don't no one knew, and it's hindsight is 2020.
Because like all the things that because I've been thinking about this a lot since I read this, and literally any of the things that I could look at in hindsight and go, that was a sign I should have picked up on, are equally things that could be perfectly validly explained by a person's legitimate accessibility needs. And I don't want this to be a thing that causes me as a person to start going, is that a real accommodation that person needs, or something they're using to cover up a misleading identity? Because like, there's already enough of that bullshit going on, of people requesting accessibility accommodations and being assumed to be making up those needs for some nefarious purpose. We don't need, as a community, this to make us start doing that amongst ourselves.
And also, I really want to point out, a lot of people have started asking, why did this person do this? and then they have started to point to mental illness. Remember, it is not okay to do that either. That can easily snowball into being ableist. If you're just like, oh, it's just because this person is XYZ, let's just not do that, because we don't know, and
we won't know unless he says, and like even then we'll only have whatever answers we're given. Sometimes people do things for self-serving reasons. Sometimes people do things for reasons they don't even understand themselves.
Yes,
it's let's not start stigmatizing X, Y, or Z potential hypothetical group as a way to. Because I think a lot of that, like trying to put labels on why a person would do this, ultimately boils down to, it would be easier for me to understand if I had something to blame this on, rather than just going, sometimes people do stuff that's shitty.
Yes, and especially, we often forget the mental health aspect of our community, of our game accessibility community, of the disabled community. They are as part of us as we are of them. Please make sure to not point fingers and name mental health right now. Is really I really don't want to do it, because if you point fingers, that person reading that, you might also have that diagnosed and would never do that. So please just let us be a bit mindful. And the last thing I want to say, at least, is that I myself did tweet out that, and I still stand with that what makes me the most angry is that I'm afraid that I won't be believed now. Every single week, because I don't look disabled, I need to sort of defend the fact that I am disabled. And some part I am okay with it, but it's also tiring. And it's really, I'm really afraid at this point that I also need to defend the fact that I'm disabled enough, and that I'm not, and I'm actually existing and stuff like that. But I also, in this whole big thing, I have to say, I never talked to this person. This happened sort of a bit before my time in the game accessibility, and this person haven't been this active since I have stepped into it, or at least I haven't seen it. But there are a lot of people out there right now that has been personally affected. Let's be a bit extra nice to them. I will do fine, but I haven't technically been personally affected. So maybe if you have the bandwidth, the energy, the spoons, whatever you want to call it, go and read what they have to say. I think they have a lot of good things to say. So I want to give I have said my stuff now. I want to give it over to people who personally gotten affected. So
on a similar note, like, you know, I have my own feelings on this that have come out of, like, it's been a weird year. The accessibility community is a small space, and I've lost, you know, it wasn't that long ago that two people that I knew that I worked with not that long before passed away within a week of each other, and now someone else that I had interacted with never existed in the first place. It's a weird thing to process. But ultimately, I think the people who it's really important to listen to with this story is non-white accessibility critics, because I think specifically they are, in many cases, the people who've been most hurt by these actions. Has been, like, I am fully aware and I acknowledge that the video game accessibility space is a very white dominated space. It is something I've made attempts where I can to try and do what I can to help with that, but it is a very white space, and to hear that someone who had managed to gain success in that space was a white person masquerading, taking up space that already is very rarely given to non-white critics, I think those are the people we need to be listening to right now, because they are the people who were most directly taken advantage of in terms of, like, the form this took. And I will try and include some links to some people's thoughts on that in the episode description, because it's a lot.
100%. I feel we talked a bit about it. Should we talk about it? Should we not talk about it? This is such important news. We should talk about it, because we should get the news out there. Now we have heard us, two white ladies. You have heard what we have to say. Please now go and read the article. Go, if you have the bandwidth, and also please go and listen to people who's actually affected, especially BIPOC. there are a lot of voices that needs to be heard more about it. And yeah, we have now said what I hope that we can help somebody get other people's out there. Yeah.
There was no good way to talk about it, and there's no good way to segue out of it, but we, I think we both had feelings we needed to get out, and we'll link to other people's thoughts on it as well.
Yes.
So,
and also, again, thank you so much for Grant for bringing this out to us.
It is not fun work to be doing, but it unfortunately needed to be doing.
Yes.
And thank you for the emotional labor involved in that. And now this is where we awkwardly segue to it's us. We do other stuff on the internet.
Yes.
Other than having emotional responses to people not existing.
Yeah.
Arevya, where are you at on the internet? Where can people find you and the stuff that you're doing?
Right now, maybe still when this come out, I am being a gnome over at Twitch, or like going like playing Ocarina of Time way too many hours, because I'm doing what I've been calling an accessible subathon. So we cap it every day with 6 hours, and then the time that is left rolls over, because I'm a big fan of like Twitch isn't just for able-bodied people. We should also be able to have fun. So that is what I'm doing. So I get a bit gaming every day. So I might still be just like haunting Twitch. But if I'm not there under the name Arevya, you can find me on YouTube, TikTok, everywhere under the name Arevya, except for TikTok because somebody stole my name, where I am Arevya Gaming. Right now, I have had a year of sabbatical where, long story short, I was supposed to do another job that didn't work. So I have worked for myself for a year, but I'm going back to my daytime job. So right now I'm a bit on I don't know what's happening. The only thing I know what's happening is that Twitch will continue where it is, but the rest around it might be a bit more quiet. And this podcast will stay on.
We've worked out a schedule that this can keep going.
Yes.
You're not going to stop us. We're having too much fun with this show. It cannot be slowed down.
You can't stop accessibility.
Exactly. Look, I enjoy this show too much.
Yeah.
Some silly thing like a day job, you can't get out of it that easy.
Who cares about a day job? Yeah, accessibility needs to go forward. But where can I find you, Laura?
I'm everywhere on the internet at Laura K. Buzz. This week on YouTube at Laura K. Buzz, you can see a very lengthy, in-depth video I did about my thoughts about the Proteus controller. If you want to hear nearly half an hour more of me going on about different thoughts I have about this controller, you can go check that out.
Yes.
Other than that, there will be an article up on Paste magazine where I talk about my favorite things I saw out of Gamescom. Go check that out. I will have a link to that up on social media. Laura K. Buzz, you'll find me in all the places doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's everything for this week, so thank you very much everyone for watching and listening, and goodbye.
Bye!